Welcome to the EST Hangout.
This is the EST Hangout, and today's guests are... All right, welcome to the EST Hangout. Happy Monday. Tom Gazzola in for Matthew Wanek. He is off on holidays. Yes, indeed. It's my show for the next 2 weeks. Kind of scary.
Strap in.
Strap in, baby. Gerry Moddejonge from NHL.com. And Lieutenant Eric, who is keeping the seat warm for Derek Van Diest, also from NHL.com. We forgot that he's on today.
Yeah.
So that's always great. Jerry, good to see you. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. I will. I don't know why you guys think you need another guest besides
Is this
me.
Wild TV?
Stop
Like
it.
with the shirt and stuff.
It's a very comfortable
What
Monday.
animals have you guys killed lately?
We call it harvesting.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Arrow in the quiver.
An arrow in the quiver. Yeah, no, we need you. We need you. It's always good to have you on here.
I must admit, I do enjoy my time. Anytime you guys invite me down the show and I'm able to make it, it goes like that. So
I know.
I just like you being around. Like, not the show is great, but just your presence around the place is always welcome.
You guys don't have a mascot yet for EST?
Well, we kind of
Oh, well, we have a mascot costume.
we got a costume.
Okay.
Did you know about Smash Smash?
No. Fill me in.
Oh, I'd love to see you try it on for
You would look
size.
great.
Fill
Smash
me
Smash.
in.
Reed was Smash Smash when we unveiled that we had brought him on.
Yeah, the story was, I mean, basically, we just found a cheap, affordable costume, and this was the one. Because some of those mascot, like they're up there, man. Like,
Yeah.
you never would have thought it, but
What did that Donaire costume sell for? Like 10 grand, and the province bought it? That's a great investment.
province too. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Tax dollars, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, how about that?
yeah, moving on.
Thank you for stepping in for DVD.
Again, I don't need to. I'll just sit here and I don't need to say a lot if you don't want.
There's so
just
much to
fill in.
talk about. There's so much to talk about. We begin by saying the EST Hangout is presented by Sentinel Storage, Canada's storage experts, more than 2 decades of helping Canadians through life's transitions. Canadian storage provider, Sentinel.ca. I apologize. My voice, by the way, like Saturday night post game was going, and it was kind of iffy yesterday. It would come and go. So if I squeak a little bit when I talk today, I apologize.
No, it's good. It's good in bedroomy.
Bedroom
Yeah. You just need the eyes to match.
You got any cigarettes?
Kind of have a bit of a snarl
Pass
to you.
me a dart. Yeah, a little
Goes well with
snarl.
the shirt, like the whole repertoire.
I'm just out here trying to do my thing.
Who are you?
It's like if he's not in a full suit, completely like tailored, then it's like, Tommy, what's wrong? Are you sick? Like,
Yes,
what's
I
going
am.
on?
Well,
So
I have illness.
You wait till the summer,
yeah.
then you'll see a show.
I cannot wait.
My
I
goodness.
can't.
My goodness. Of course, you can participate as well. Text us 780-218-9999. Get to the nasty chat as well. I'm keeping tabs on the text line, the Paris Jewelers inbox. By the way, thank you to Trev for helping me set this up. This is also the first time I had to set up the whole show. I've never done that before. Awanek has done tutorials. He has reminded us. And I got us pretty close. And then Trev even said, good job today, Tom.
Problem with those tutorials is you watch a tutorial and then you don't have to do it for. Then
That's
all
right.
the information just kind of.
Listen. You guys don't need to know all that stuff. You have an Awanek.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Really?
Like, yeah. No,
Like it's every once a year around February, March, I got to sit down, go through a pile of receipts and do my taxes. And I completely forget how to do it for the next 11 months.
you don't need it. Yeah.
Who cares? That's so far down.
Retain that information.
So far down the road. Everybody needs an Awanek.
We've got one. He's a good one, but he's in Mexico. He's got his
Good
feet
for
in the
him
sand.
too.
Yeah.
He hasn't had like a week off since we started this experiment.
Oh, so he's down in Mexico watching old reruns of Big Brother.
Oh, yeah.
Bam!
Like that's what the guy's going to do on his spare time. He's just in a different locale now.
Going
Yeah.
back to 2015, Big
Yeah,
Brother.
He leaves work physically.
Listen, I must admit, it's way more fun to razz him about that stuff when he's here.
Yes,
But we do what we can.
we do what we can. Okay, Big G. I mean, the Oilers, haven't been around for a long time in town, physically. I know they popped in for a couple of skates.
Right.
Were you at the rink before they went on this road trip?
Yeah, it felt weird because, right before that, it was big, huge home stretch. And then it's when are these guys going to get out on the road again, give us a break? And now they're gone. It's man, where have they been? And yeah, they did. They stopped in for, brief little cup of coffee or two, and we're gone just as fast.
Yeah.
But boy, you look at the record over those two stretches, it's like vastly different. Like, what happened? So, at least they return home on at least a winning note and salvage something out of that. That was wild to watch. Like, you're going on a 5-game road swing through the East, and you start out against Philly, who's maybe second from the bottom,
competing for a playoff spot as well, that's the East, second
Wild.
from the bottom, still in the wild card
Amazing.
chase.
Yeah. Turn around the very next day and take on the top team in the league, the Washington Capitals, and it's basically the same result. So, not a great way to start that thing off.
I think it was Dave Jameson said speed bag, then curb stomp that weekend.
That does sound like a JMO
It was
quote. Yeah.
phenomenal the way he described it when he was in here last week, and I was like, nailed it. And then they followed up with a couple more duds. I mean, they played a little bit better in Tampa, a little bit better in Florida, and then they get a win in a sloppy game against Carolina. But
oh man, what a third period though! That's just like the first NFL game I ever went and witnessed. And this is going back probably before you were born, but.
What about Tom?
No.
we're the same.
We're same age.
Tom's good. No, I never pick on Tom, or else he doesn't invite me back. It was back in early 2000. So it was
I wasn't born.
Right. It was Seattle and I think San Diego. This is back in like the junior Seo days, and they were the two worst teams in the league, and just great football. It was like, they were both equally bad to the point where it was competitive and fun. Like, that's kind of what that third period felt like. And the Oilers were, losers of their last 5. I think Carolina had lost 5 of 7 at that time.
Correct.
And we're both just desperate for a win. I couldn't believe Carolina's home win record, right?
It's great.
Is only one shy of Winnipeg's. Ridiculous. Yeah. So, anyways, you got these two teams, and they both went in with the exact same amount of points, same record,
identical record,
down to the
So something had to give, and the team that came up with the most desperation won. That kind of felt a little bit playoffy for me, maybe, and fun to watch at least.
I watched a bit of Carolina Calgary last night, and the Canes looked sharper. Like they really did. I thought Calgary didn't get a shot for the first I think it was 17 minutes. No. It was I think it was the first 17 minutes they were held off the shot clock. Well, and then we had the 13-minute stretch in the Carolina game where no team got a shot in the first period, which was insane. But
when the shot total though was still very, very high.
It was
and that goes into
36-32 at the end of the night. But Pickard played good.
Oh boy,
the 1A, the 1A, 1A.
I want to know, what was the reaction today when you guys, because there's always a follow-up on the morning coming out of a weekend talking about Oilers hockey. What were you guys seeing and hearing?
We looked forward and focused on obviously the deadline and everything, but the goaltending did pop up for Anaheim, and I think Dusty, I'm paraphrasing, but I think he said, you go with the hot hand right now. You can title them and label them however you want, but I think right now, given where the team is at, and I don't know if we're still using the fragility term, but one win in Carolina, I don't think really, you're not there yet. You're not fully back to what we saw from November to whatever it was, Christmas, January. Yeah. So go with the hot hand right now. Why not?
I mean, that's what you do in the playoffs anyways, right?
Yeah, exactly. They did it last year. It's a good tandem to have, but I mean, we also came to the conclusion that they're not going out and addressing this position,
right?
As much as some people want them to, or
they're not.
They're not.
So I keep going back to it, but we had Elliot Friedman and David Pagnow, two of the biggest insiders. Friedge is probably
he was breaking stuff. He was getting calls on
the show,
yeah.
and so Elliot said he updated the Kane situation, and people still don't want to believe the scenario. I know you guys were talking about with Rashog at the end of the show.
No,
and I saw some of the comments. They're like, they know, they have to know. This is a garbage organization. Do people not understand that sometimes a player can be difficult, and he could throw a wrench into their plans? That is kind of what has been outlined, and people are just some are unwilling to grasp this.
Well, if reality doesn't fit certain people's narratives that they've already, predetermined, then it sucks and it stings. I get that.
Well, let's look at the guy's past history, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Like, he has never left a place with a parade and a send-off saying, "We love you, Evander Kane," right?
That's a very good point.
True. Yes. I remember when the idea and they brought him in, and we would go on air merely questioning it, as you do on Sports Talk, as you talk about it from a variety of angles and whether it's good, bad, whatever. And again, as you said, Jerry, based on his history of the teams, and just merely questioning that was a how dare you attitude. And there was a lot of, and look, maybe this is all. Maybe this comes out at the end of the week and it is smoked and they played everybody like a fiddle and then that's fine. I don't care. I'm just saying with what we know and what we're dealing from and knowing how he's left that's kind of where all signs are pointing. Now, if that doesn't happen, sure, you can label us as wrong or whatever, but I think it's okay to let your mind drift in that zone.
Well, that's the optics of it. I mean, you're not.
What else can you go by?
And the hard part is, man, they could really use a player that plays like that. Right
That's
now,
just it.
right?
You're screaming out for it.
Man.
100%.
So well, however it shakes out, it's going to shake out. But I don't know. Just me personally, I don't feel like that particular player has the team's best interests at heart all the time. So, yeah.
And that's again, everybody says, I go to my job and I understand that too.
I mean, if your job was paying you the whole time and you strung out some surgeries and recovery time and now there's potential for a complete buyout where you can turn around and sign another contract, I mean, maybe you would start thinking about work a little differently.
Yep.
So,
you and I have been at the rink, DVD as well, when he shows up all season, right? I haven't seen him.
Couple times up in the press box.
That's it.
For
Outside
games,
of that.
yeah, no, you're exactly right. Yeah, he's not bumming around. Yeah, really, that's a good point. And I never noticed. I never made that connection. But yeah, usually guys are at least itching a little bit to get back and want to be around. And who knows behind the scenes, but we don't see him in the hallways or anything like that.
And I know you said they're screaming out for his type, which is totally true, but what is he going to be when he gets, that's the question as well. With a lot of other questions surrounding this whole situation, but is he going to just slot right in and be that player that he always...
I mean, maybe what percentage would he have been at with the sports hernia he was dealing with all last year, and he still far and away led the team in hits, right?
Yes, yeah.
So... maybe it's just the attitude that he just brings something they're lacking in it, and the countermeasure of that teeter-totter is he's perhaps not the best locker room guy, team player sort of thing you want.
But when you get that zip and pop, I don't think there's anybody you can acquire on the trade market that would fit that, right? Like he's the unicorn.
And maybe he to send out this bulldog and do all the things he does physically on the ice, maybe he doesn't quite fit in with that whole mentality of what they want or what they're looking. I don't know. You need that gladiator guy that you can just send out in the arena.
Listen, his impact when he's dialed in and healthy, you can't deny it. But those are two big ifs.
Yeah.
Healthy. Yeah.
What would he have been like on that second line with Draisaitl? The season Draisaitl was
reliable.
having.
Podkolzin except better in every facet.
Yeah.
Physical, intimidating, fast, skilled.
The sandpaper too. The whole attitude of it all.
100%.
Yeah.
Maybe if this is totally hypothetical, obviously we're playing this game, but if he was healthy and was good to go and was on that line and you had Arvidsson on the other side, what if Victor Arvidsson would have been having a different
There's a domino effect there, perhaps.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Complete opposite players in terms of physical as Arvidsson, even size alone. But yeah, you'd have Thunder on one side and Lightning on the other side of Draisaitl, who's on a career year. It'd be interesting to.
But alas, here we are, and we're trying to figure it out. And the Oilers, this is crunch time for them. It really is to assess if this guy is going to be able to play.
Yeah.
And if he's going to play games in the regular season, you're pooched out of his LTIR money for the deadline. So you have to have plan A, plan B, plan C. Yeah. I'm sure they do. But do you just go to him? What are you doing? You tell us so we can make a play here. Like, do you think it comes to a head like that? Do you think the organization has that conversation with Kane in his camp?
Somebody's got to, and it's got to happen sooner or later. Like, you can't just not know and then not be able to maximize the bucks on that cap. So
It's all a smokescreen.
Yep.
Right?
Maybe,
It's all,
right. Oh, yeah. That's what it is. Because they have so many people to fool about that.
What is going on?
That was a big slam, hey?
That was a slam?
That
Is
was,
that what that was?
that was DVD coming in the doors here. Kicking him down.
Kicking it in.
Text us your thoughts, 780-218-9999. It's the EST Hangout. Top Gazzola, Gerry Moddejonge, and Lieutenant Derek Van Diest from HL.com on his way. Other stuff, Rick, like, let's just continue the conversation. But with Gerry here, what were people asking for, clamoring for going into the deadline? What were you seeing in the text line?
Yeah, well, there's always, again, we've sussed the goaltender thing as much as some people want it or desire it. It's not a thing. We talked this morning about, and Rashad got into it too, that the Kane scenario does lead to a few different branches. So if he doesn't, and he's not in the picture, well, then you need to address a top six forward in that sense as well. If he's not going to, if he comes back, scratch that off the board.
Right.
But I think this always comes back to the blue line. And it started there at the beginning of the season. I think we all knew, prior to or at the deadline, that was going to be something that needed to be addressed and move. I think Emerson's, obviously played maybe better than expectation this year. And you've gotten to where you have with this, but I don't think Klingberg has scratched the itch.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Neither do I.
Prove me wrong. But, so it's the blue line all over again, and maybe not. But again, it comes back to if there's money, you got money or you don't got money, or is it money in, money out, and all this. So, I mean, looking at some defensemen to fill in depth wise, I guess, on the blue line. And again, the top six forward, with or without Kane, that's the question too. And Rashad also brought up the fourth line center / penalty killing movable guy around. So
Right.
I don't know. You're looking at other teams and you're looking at maybe Donato again. That name's popped up,
He's got, his price tag's good. He's $2 million AAV.
Yeah. So if you're looking to make things work and such, but I don't know, like this isn't, you guys don't feel like there's going to be a big, whenever you read a trade proposal that's a little out there and it's like, it's almost stretching for a triple. People are like, oh, that's,
Right.
it's not going to be like that, is it? Like it's
don't think
just
so.
not. It can't.
Doesn't feel like it.
As much as everybody wants that too, and it'd be we'd have a parade for it, but it's not going to happen.
How about Kulak stepping up in Nurse's absence here the last couple of games?
He is what season or a career high in goals, I think.
Yeah. What did he score, his seventh or eighth the other
seventh.
night?
Yeah. No, you're right. And Gager's been all over him all season long. Like that's and come playoff time, that he's going to take that to a notch above. So, what Nurse? What's the deal?
Day to day, undisclosed.
Just UBI, LBI.
Yeah.
No,
I didn't even
BI,
get that
a body
detail.
injury.
Yeah,
No,
a
it
body
looked
injury.
upper, right? Didn't he go in for a check and run into the boards, and he was kind of wincing
Yeah, okay.
in Tampa?
Okay.
Yeah.
Then that was it then. We'll see. I mean, they're on the ice today after having yesterday off, obviously taking on Anaheim tomorrow. Thursday against the Habs, Saturday against Dallas. The goalie situation, we've already waxed poetic about this, that unlikely that they're going to trade for one. So we established you going with Pickard tomorrow, right, against the Anaheim Ducks?
Yeah, and the thing about Pickard is we don't really know what he can do because they are so picky and choosy about who he has played against, right? And that's where you look at his numbers and Stu's numbers, and they're kind of skewed a little bit because they don't put Pickard against the top three teams in each division, right? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
They save him for, and they give Stu the rest when,
And we know
the
Skinner's
weaker
record
goals.
against those. We've seen those.
Yeah.
That arithmetic already drawn up, right? Against the
Exactly. So, but hey, I mean, maybe something had to happen for him to get this opportunity, and now he has a chance to step up and see what they get. So, I mean, Dallas is right around the corner too, and he's got a little runway into it. So, maybe not the worst thing to find out exactly what he can do. Boy, I mean,
But we have to make peace with this now.
Right.
It's time to Gibson, all that. Like,
Be done with
Right.
it. Be done with it.
this is it.
And then over the weekend, the Binnington thing. I had people come up to me,
There-
Tommy, are they bringing in Binnington? I'm like, no.
Arvidsson, Kane. We had some sort of proposal this morning. Kane, Arvidsson, some picks or something in the money, and then Parayko, Binnington. I don't think Shen was involved in that, but
This was coming in from listeners.
oh yeah.
Or did you guys fabricate this?
No. This is a text. This is sending it to the HOHOHO postal code at Christmas time. You know, and you're like, dear
You know you're
Santa,
getting
can we get
something
a
back for that? Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't know. Like, I talking about it's all fine and good, but yeah, as I was saying before, there's no these hits aren't happening.
Who in their right mind thinks that Doug Armstrong and Stan Bowman are going to make a deal with one another? And Jeff Jackson, by the way.
Well, and Armstrong's already going to strong arm whoever wants to pry those guys out, and if it's one GM in this market, especially,
Yeah.
I don't know what you would have to.
I'm blown away by how forgetful some can be that what Doug Armstrong and the Blues did to the Oilers in the summer is still like very top of mind. So what makes you think that the
Offer
Oilers
sheets
and,
are a
the,
weapon.
and the Blues are going
Those
to
are-
engage
yeah.
in trade talks?
And especially where
Am
the
I
Blues
crazy?
are at right now.
Yeah. Am I crazy?
Why
for
does
thinking
he
that?
make that move? And a guy that just won a Four Nations in goal, and what does that communicate to your fan base?
Right.
Not to say that the Blues are going to be. I mean, who cares? So you make the wild card and you get whatever.
You lose in the first round.
But
yeah.
but still, to be in the mix right now at this stage, and then just say, well, you know,
We're going to trade our goalie that we have signed.
I-
I don't know. Am I crazy, Jerry? Because I'm like, there's been a bunch of times where like Braden Shen's names come up. People want Parayko, and it's like, that's a great concept. It really is. Those are
the only
excellent
guy
pieces.
that could work it is McCrimmon.
Kelly McCrimmon. Well,
If there's one GM that can, you know,
Vegas.
Vegas, baby.
Yeah.
I don't. You talk about what do certain moves or speculation or whatever. What does it mean? What is it telling the fan base? How many? What are we at? What's the number of players the Oilers have plucked off other teams' waiver wire and just inserted them into the lineup now? You got Kapanen.
Dermott's back just recently too.
Yes.
There you go.
There's the answer for. I mean,
Right. So if that's your fallback plan on injuries or anything like that, we'll just grab whoever's there and they get slapped in and they're playing. It's like that's rough. So yeah, you look back at that St. Louis, like, talk about a power play over the offseason to grab not one but both of those guys and not to get any counter back for at least one of them. I mean, somebody will have to sit me down and explain that to me.
well, Holloway's what now? 20 goals, correct? If the last stat.
And
We
then,
talked about Kane. Can you imagine Holloway on the wing?
Jerry,
on that
stop.
second?
stop
There
it.
could be children
Like-
listening.
Could you imagine CC in the second
soon.
pair? Could you
soon.
imagine
Could you-
Holloway
Could
and
you imagine
Grover?
Cece and penalty kill that's still, okay, maybe not top sky high, but better than 27th or whatever it's at now, right?
And leaking left, right, and center.
Like, that's painful. How does it go from one extreme to the next?
Bouchard got a power play goal though.
Oh my God.
He did.
After
He did.
Oh my
Draisaitl
God.
misses out on the empty net for what would have been his 8th game in a row
Yeah.
with at least a goal, right? Unbelievable.
That's some good depth. Henrique, Perry, both going hard. You know, that depth scoring is a lot of goose eggs around those names as of late. But I don't know, maybe who are they?
Who are they?
Because we've seen there's the good, there's the bad.
I don't.
And you can go in the schedule and say, well, who are they playing and what time are they playing? All those things. But there's still a team in there, right? Like,
I'm not a hockey guy. I came over from 15 years covering the gridiron in this town. Why don't they use Henrique more? Like, why is he? I get it, third line center. Like, and that's the life of a centerman not named McDavid or Draisaitl playing for the Oilers. But when they're looking around and bouncing guys off of McDavid, let's try and get this guy. Let's try and get this guy. Why don't they throw Henrique back up there like they did last season? Right? Like, why is he not an option for top 6 anymore?
That's a great question. Do they want balance? Or are they worried about his game? I don't know. DVD's here. All right.
is it? Yeah.
There he
You're
is.
supposed to throw me out like Uncle Phil and Jazzy
You're
Jeff.
supposed to come in like Steve
Well,
Austin.
the sprinklers going and everything. Thanks for having me, boys.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you,
still
Rick.
better than
Appreciate
getting
that.
slapped out of here like Will Smith.
Oh, baby. What's up, DVD?
Sorry about that, guys.
Well, that's okay.
Hey, pal.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome. Let's go like this. Like this. And like this. Look at this. I figured out how to do this.
Lovely.
All right. Derek Van Diest in the house. This is the EST Hangout. The official drink of the Hangout is the Finnish long drink legend of 1952. A drink unlike any other sparkling refreshment, real liquor, longdrink.com/Canada. Boom. How's that?
Sorry,
Thanks
Tiger.
for stopping by.
No problem. I forgot 3 weeks ago you asked me to come in today.
Wow.
He's a busy guy. I am not.
I know he's a busy guy,
Sorry.
but
I got caught up in trade deadline stuff today. So.
oh, you did?
Yeah.
Were you actually awake when I texted you?
Yeah, it was.
Or were you sleeping like an
No,
angel?
I was up.
I even brought Jerry for you today.
He's on Eastern time. Weren't we threatening to do this, all of us together, at some point?
Yes.
I think we were, yeah. I'm on Eastern time, so I was up and looking and stuff and trade deadline. It's a busy week, so
Yeah,
but
it
I
is a busy
completely
week.
forgot because then I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, he did ask me 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever it was.
Yes.
It wasn't.
First of all, let's clarify. It was last week at Boston Pizza.
It's still a week.
Not 3 weeks ago.
That's last week. I forgot. I totally slipped. With all the stuff going on right now, I totally
There's a
slipped my
lot
mind.
going on. If you haven't caught it yet, Elliot Friedman has revealed that Victor Arvidsson has a no movement clause, and evidently Adam Henrique, who Jerry was just talking about, also has one. Elliot says, not sure on Henrique if it's both years, but definitely now, just like Buchnevich in St. Louis, the full no trade clause added to the last year of this deal. There are always details that sneak by. Okay, I mean, we talked about the game over the weekend. We talked about the road trip. You popped on the post-game show on Thursday, so we had a chance to discuss that loss to Florida. And we were talking about the win and the good third period, like exciting after a sloppy first 2 periods against Carolina. But now all of a sudden, we've got this news on Evander Kane. We got this news now that's dropping on Victor Arvidsson and Adam Henrique. And the Oilers going into the deadline. They need a defenseman. Maybe they need a top 6 guy. What do you make of the whole Evander Kane scenario right now? Because we had Friedman on Hello Hockey, and that's how the day started on Saturday, getting the word out that he had submitted his list. Some people are like, well, how's that news? Elliot wasn't sure. He even said it on the air. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that he has submitted his list. And people are like, how's that news? If Elliot doesn't know, then that's news. Like,
Well, everyone knew that at March 1st we went from no
Modified.
trade clause to a modified no trade clause. That means that you couldn't get traded to 16 teams. Now, the thing is, how are you going to trade a $5 million player that hasn't played all year
exactly.
to someone? Like it's a tough to move a guy like that. So I think they have to sit down. They have to have a long talk with Evander Kane. He wants to play. He wants to come back. He's practicing with the team, so he wants to get back in the lineup. And to get a guy like Evander Kane back in the lineup would be like to get that forward that you're looking for. Like, so you may have him in your back. You may have him on your roster already, but it depends on what he's like. He's been out the whole year. He hasn't been able to skate. He hasn't been able to work out. You know, when you have hernia, the sports hernia issue, and they basically go into your guts and fix everything that was. You're not going to be able to move for a while.
Right.
So he's way behind. He's not going to be the player that he was 3 years ago or 2 years ago in the playoffs, or the player that we saw at the beginning of the year in the playoffs. So I think that's the situation they're looking at. How effective is he wants to be? Yeah, he wants to play, but how effective is he going to be? And I don't think there's a chance anyone takes that contract off your hands right now, especially since you don't know what player you're going to get. You don't know what condition he's going to be. You don't know what player he's going to get after surgery. So they're really in tough here. And it does sound like, you're looking at those contracts. I've been going through contracts and for the last week and a half, because we've been doing, stories on trades and who might go, I've been on Puckpedia for the last 3 weeks. And a lot of guys have no movement clauses. Like Ken Holland handed those out like candy.
Sounds like a guy that knew he wasn't going to be around.
Sounds like maybe, I don't know.
Sure, you want no movement?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure,
whatever.
I'll give
Not
you
my problem.
Yeah,
anymore.
I'll give you a no movement. And I think that's the thing now, is that GMs are kind of, hamstringing themselves by handing out these no movement clauses, giving a lot of power to the player, whether he wants to stay. Enrique wasn't going to come here for a year and leave. He wanted to stay here. He wanted to be here the year. I think he knew that. Arvidsson's probably thinking the same thing. I'm not going to go to Edmonton just to get traded at the deadline. So they want a little pressure. So he may not have a lot of pieces on the roster, physically on the roster. They're going to have to be creative.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to find that defenseman. I don't know if Klingberg's working out, to be honest. I don't know if that's the guy. And you're gonna have to bring in those guys. Bouchard is having a terrible season defensively. Like every mistake you make, who threw that puck up the middle? Oh, number 2. Yeah, who lost that battle in the corner? Oh, number 2. Who forgot to get that guy in front of the net? Oh, number 2. Like I know I've taken a lot of heat from the analytics community about how great of a season he has.
Yeah.
And we've seen it up top. Yes, he's got great Corsi because he stands at the blue line while McDavid and Draisaitl circle down the corner and get 15 shots on net on a shift.
How dare you?
Oh,
How
that's
dare
insane.
you besmirch his
Like, I
Corsi?
remember just Rob and I were looking at that. He goes, like, he's Corsi. His Corsi is like +6, and he just stood at the blue line and didn't do anything.
Nice.
So I'm thinking they got to figure that issue out. Like, if, this. Can you play with this guy defensively? He's just struggling. He's not getting it. He's making bad decisions with the puck. He's not playing confident. He's been struggling all year. So now you got to go out and get a guy like you did a few years ago when you got Ekholm. Is there another Ekholm out there?
Great question.
Yeah, probably not. Like that. And you need and your team is not fast enough. Your team is not physical enough. Your team is not, gritty enough. You need all that. Right. And then you look at, you let a guy like Dylan Holloway walk who's just scored 20 goals this year. Like, how much does that hurt this organization? Like, oh, that's the guy we wanted.
That
and we
does
let him
hurt.
walk. Like, that guy how much would he help your bottom 6 right now?
Forget bottom 6.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
the
a
top 6.
Yeah.
Either of those guys, Broberg or Holloway, would have solved a lot of problems right now.
Yep.
They're trying to trade for the 2 guys that they let walk out the door.
Yep.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
I still and don't ask Matt Cassian about this trade, but I still don't get the Cody Ceci move.
Well, you know what? I'm not. Emerson had a really bad game the other day. He was throwing the puck away a lot too. But I thought they were trying to get younger and faster on the back end, and I think that was what the Cody Ceci move was about. But you're right. They lost a pretty good defenseman in
Right.
Cody Ceci.
Reliable.
Yeah.
All they got on was worse than the PK.
Yeah. Exactly.
They
So,
are.
yeah, there's some issues here, and Stan Bowman's going to fix some problems. Like, this is the window of opportunity, championship window for this team, and they don't look like a championship team right now.
They could round into form. They can add a piece or two, and then they can kick it into high gear in the stretch drive. That is possible because they were one of the best teams in the league. Like Jerry said earlier, between mid-November to end of January, they had a bad February. No doubt about that. But they've started off this month with a win. That's good. They'll try to get their game back. They're at home, 3-game homestand starting tomorrow against Anaheim. There is a bunch of news starting to drop, and I'll update you guys. Anthony DeMarco says that the Flames have reached out to the Bruins about defenseman Brandon Carlo. Teams have yet to dive into details, but Calgary is interested. Not too many players on Boston roster not available for the right price. So we're starting to find out about no movement clauses that these guys evidently have. Adam Henrique, Victor Arvidsson. Keep an eye on Arvidsson, even though he has a no move clause. Over the weekend, somebody mentioned that he might be open to a move. Obviously, things haven't gone well here for Arvidsson and the Oilers. Just hasn't been a good fit.
Ever since he took out McDavid in that practice at the downtown community rink, you remember that? They collided with each other. David was not happy. They laughed it off afterwards, of
training
course.
camp?
But that was, over at the DCA.
That's right.
Yeah. Not a great way. You want to start off on the right foot. Let's not take out the top guy.
Whoopsies.
Oops.
Seth Jones was traded to Florida. All these pieces. Apparently, you can get guys from St. Louis. So it's going to be a crazy week. What do you guys think is going to be the biggest move?
I'm not a huge fan of that Seth Jones trade because I've watched Seth Jones play, and maybe because he's in Chicago, I don't know. But he's not the Seth Jones that we saw 4 or 5 years ago. It's a different player, and you're paying him a lot of money to go down to Florida. Maybe it's different in Florida. He doesn't have to be the top guy. He doesn't have to be the number one guy.
Right.
Might change. But that, you're taking a gamble there, and you gave away your goalie of the future. Now you're going to ride Bobrovsky, a 36-year-old, through the playoffs. Like, remember last year, he had to be spelled off. He couldn't. He didn't need. So, sometimes teams forget that. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of movement, and I think the issue was that there was not much separation in the East. Like, in the East is. There's still a lot of teams that thought they were in it. I think now this week you're kind of starting to see that separation. Teams are starting to figure out, okay, well, Pittsburgh's not going to be in, and the Rangers are still kind of fighting for that. Maybe they're still going to be around, but there wasn't a lot of teams to pick carcasses from, like like in the West. Like we've known San Jose not going anywhere. We've known Anaheim's not going anywhere. We've known Nashville's struggling this year, that they're going to have guys available. So they've known the sellers in the West. In the East, they're just starting to know them this week. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see some movement this week once those guys realize, okay, we're not going to make the playoffs. We better start moving some assets here.
Big G, what are you looking at? Outside of Edmonton, I know that's our focus, obviously, because we cover the team. But
No, man, that's why I come down here, so I can learn it all from you too, because I have
my goodness.
no idea. But that's the thing. There's so much being bandied about out there. Like, what about this? What about that? It's like it's too much at some point.
Mhm.
And the week's only starting, right? Like trade deadline week is finally underway. It's gonna get crazy. I mean, it's fun to watch and it's fun to think about, but realistically, man, I mean, I feel bad for the guys on TV, and they slot all this time for trade deadline day, and then it's like, man, there's like, how do they keep the dead air from happening, right?
Well, the GMs I know for a fact the GMs at times have pulled off trades the day before or a couple days prior, just so that the deadline shows are struggling and have nothing
terrible.
and have to fill content. Like, it's cruel, but hilarious.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for like Duthie and the guys at Sportsnet as well, where you're just like, okay, we're gonna send it over to Gord Miller to tell us about 1987.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not 10 years ago when you get that stuff from TV. You got it on your phone when you're getting out of your car, walking in to your house. Like, it's oh, boom. Like, that's where it comes. I mean, it's not these big explosive big drops on TV anymore. So yeah, exactly.
No, it is, and it's interesting that they are all speculate. Who saw the Seth Jones trade coming?
That came out of nowhere.
Came out of nowhere, right? Who saw the Rantanen trade coming? So, like, you throw out all these names because you look at the list of players that are going to become unrestricted free agents. You're trying to put it all together. You're trying to think like a GM, and then boom, Rantanen gets traded. Who might get traded again?
We're going to talk about that right away. Here.
So, and then you're looking at Seth Jones' deal. I looked at that contract and went, no way anyone's taking that contract off.
9.5 mil.
9.5 mil for another 5 years. I'm like, no way is he worth. He's not a $9.5 million. Is he a $7 million defenseman? I don't know. Like, if I was the Chicago owner, I'm like, I'm paying this guy $2.5 million to not play for a team for the next 5 years. Like, that's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving away. So this guy doesn't play on your team. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. But yeah, I think once the pieces start moving and people start talking and the phone's ringing all the time, but these insiders are just, they're just trying to patch things up, and they did like what I did this weekend or last weekend. You went through literally every team, looked at every contract, saw every no move clause, and you try to picture some things together here. Like, I think Ivan Provorov is a guy that for sure is going to move, even though Columbus is right in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But do you trade a guy that you need on your roster? You're going to lose him next year because you can't be able to afford him.
Right.
It's like that's the thing that the GMs have to weigh here. Success now or long-term success with your hockey team?
I take success now every time, man, because if you push it and try and go for the gusto later and it doesn't happen, you're like, nothing to show.
Should have done
nothing to show.
Columbus did that, though, but they let Bobrovsky walk. Remember when they
none of those guys were staying. Panarin, Bobrovsky, Duchesne.
Right, so you trade them.
Right.
But he let them all walk. And then they won one round. They went to the first round of the playoffs. Got knocked the first round, and then all those guys walked away.
Jarmo Kekalainen probably had, I'm going to use a term that the kids use, the most mid-run as a GM for over a decade in Columbus, where he didn't really do anything. Made the playoffs twice, had that great upset over Tampa, made a big run for it. They were still ousted pretty early.
The first round, yeah.
Like, they are so loyal in Columbus that they just kept him around. I think they're on their fourth GM, and the team's been around for 25 years.
Yeah, made the playoffs, 3 times?
That's not bad. I mean, we're just harping on Ken Holland for giving all this stuff away that he's not gonna have to clean up later.
As NMCs?
Maybe there's something to long-term GMing. Like, hey, maybe this guy will come. I mean, he's not terrible enough to fire. Maybe he'll come around. I don't know.
It's tough when you know, and the GM knows that he won't be here next year. So he's like, what do I care? Right. I'm gonna hamstring this team for next. Not that he did, but I'm just saying, he's gonna try and make the team good for last year. He got him to the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. He got 2 goals away from winning the whole thing.
Yep.
So then now you're beyond that. You go, oh, he gave this guy a no trade. He gave this guy a no trade. He gave this guy, like, that's just the way things work, right? So, but I like the job Ken Holland did here. He got the team in the playoffs. He made them competitive every year.
Ekholm alone.
Whatever.
Ekholm alone
Ekholm was probably
worth it
the
at this
best.
point.
You know, he signed Ekholm. You know, he got that team to kind of he got the pieces around Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl to make him competitive every season and take a shot at a run in the Stanley Cup every year he was here.
Which is what they brought him in for.
Now Stan Bowman has to kind of continue that. So he's got to make me deals. He can't sit on his hands.
And Jeff Jackson, by the way.
And Jeff
they are
Jackson.
a tandem, and people forget that, and they just say it's Stan Bowman. It's not. They work in unison with one another. Stan Bowman is the front-facing guy, and then Jeff Jackson gets to work in the background because he has other things on his plate as well. But I think that is worth noting. And you're right. It's up to those guys to now try to build off of what Stan Bowman, or pardon me, what Ken Holland left behind.
So, sorry to interrupt. Do they have to do something this week according to that line of thought then?
Yes,
Do
I
they
think
they
have
have
to
to.
come
They have
out
to.
with something?
Yeah.
You've watched this defense and how it's played from the start of the year.
This
like-
defense is not going to win anything for you. They may be if LA gets better and they got to play LA in the first round.
That's just, we're not talking about Vegas in first place in the Pacific anymore. Now it's LA breathing down your neck again.
Yeah.
One lapse, one poor stretch after killing it for 2.5 months,
Yep.
and they're right back.
That's the way
where
it
they
works.
started.
So every team goes through a slump. Every team goes
Yeah.
through like
Well,
Florida
LA
did,
and Vegas
did,
went
LA,
through
they
slump.
went through their
That's how
slumps.
Edmonton climbed.
Yeah.
But this late in the season, though, we're
I know.
in the final third, approaching the final quarter, and
Timing is
Edmonton
terrible.
usually has it under control at this point, on cruise control towards a big playoff push. And here's another thing: if they had just a little bit more left in the tank last, and never mind home ice advantage or where, like, how that would have changed the whole scenario. If they had just a tiny bit more left in the tank, they're not relying on the Janmarks to score goals in the biggest game in 20 years in this franchise,
Right?
right? So does and how much? Speaking of what's in the tank, how much did McDavid spend in that push for Team Canada a
I
couple
know.
weeks ago, right? And good for him. I just hope that's recoverable. That's worth it now, because you start talking about like, oh, is this guy like McDavid's not the same McDavid.
That's a good point. And people were texting in on the weekend and throughout last week saying he's got to be hurt. He's got to be hurt. Guys, I haven't heard anything to that effect about him being banged up this year. Not like last year. I don't know.
No,
Have you guys
I haven't
anything?
heard anything like that. And he was flying in a couple of those games. He was flying. So nothing's affecting his skating ability, but it's the mental thing. Like you go from
He hasn't been home for 3 weeks before
it's like, he's been
yesterday.
Yeah.
almost a month probably.
Yeah. Right.
He's been on the road a lot. It was such an emotional series. I think it took its toll mentally more than it did physically. But yeah, and I remember I was talking to Paul McLean about this for our coaches column that we ran in on the website, and he said these guys need a break emotionally more than they do physically. So, and he comes right back and he's bang right into a back-to-back and
Where he
right into
he cannot rest at all.
Yeah.
No
'Cause
rest.
We can't have this 3-game turn into 4-game, then 5-game skid. So
yeah.
you're
So
right.
It's
That-
tough.
it's a
tough
thing.
situation.
Okay, I'm going to read a few texts that have come in, 780-218-9999. Get your guys' reaction on some of these. And then we're going to move on to the rant, because there is news or some rumblings about Rantanen, obviously. And we just saw Mikko Rantanen. Great goal that he set up to Sebastian Aho through the seam twice. A little give and go across the zone and in the back of the Oilers' net. But we got a text here, says, likely negative trade equity with Kane. Wonder if a team like Utah would be interested. Low risk for them. Lots of cap space and not an overly deep forward group. Obviously, depends on whether he accepts a trade there. I am definitely trading him if I can. Utah's interesting because
I'm pretty sure Utah's on his no trade list.
yeah.
He ain't going to Utah. I'm looking at you pick out 15 teams that you wouldn't want to be traded to. You tell me Utah's not on that list?
They have
No
a
offense to Utah.
reputable owner. They don't-
No offense to Utah, but
or to Evander.
are you not on that
They-
list? Like if you're
Yeah.
Evander Kane, maybe I don't know. Maybe you're
what
proximity to
teams
Vegas.
you
Maybe you're proximity to Vegas. Maybe I don't know. That's
There you
go.
dangerous.
There you
I don't
go.
know, but you're looking at you're looking at the sexy teams that you want to get traded to.
New
right?
York.
The New Yorks, the Floridas, the LAs, those teams like that. Like, we could probably sit down here and figure out what 15
You're
teams
probably right.
are not on his no trade list. And I could almost guarantee Utah would be on that list.
Okay, so you are completely poo-pooing
Well,
Utah.
I'm just saying.
I could see Utah, but I understand that texter's point
as a
because Utah
franchise.
can be
Yeah.
For sure.
aggressive now.
For sure.
They're a legit franchise.
You have to
As a
want to go
state?
to Utah.
Well, it's,
Yeah. Right?
do you like olive drab?
I'm just saying.
That's the state color.
Right? Like it's like, all right. Utah might be number 1 on his list.
Oh, I'll get you some saltines and send you
Exactly.
to Utah. Okay. I do understand the rationale for that text, and we will talk about Utah in a second here. I just want to rattle off a couple more. Okay, this one comes in and says, I'm preparing myself to be massively underwhelmed this trade deadline. Oilers need a top 6 right winger and a top 4 right D. I doubt Oilers get either. What assets do the Oilers have to sell? What cap room do they have to bring anyone on? The cap room thing we've talked about, it, they have to figure it out, and Evander Kane dictates a lot of that.
Yeah.
But the cap assets to sell, if you're the Oilers, what do you have?
Draft picks.
That, and as a team that's relied all season long on who happens to slide through on other teams' waiver wires to pick up and toss in the lineup, I'm feeling the exact same thing as that texter.
Okay, one more. Let's go to this one here. Martin says, you're wearing plaid. Is it pumpkin spice latte season? No, I just felt like wearing this shirt. Okay, another one says, if Brandon Carlo is available, what's the acquisition cost there? Got to be huge as he has term and a good cap hit. Got to think that would be something to consider. Might not have the assets there. So we heard Calgary talking with Boston about Brandon Carlo. Brandon Carlo would be, I think, a good fit here.
Yeah.
Again, what do they have? What can they? Yeah. And we just said not much.
No, they don't have. They don't have any young. Like what do they have in the farm that they can dangle? They don't have much, right?
Matt Savoy, he's up here.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not playing him. But by the way, would you have played Matt Savoy on Saturday?
Yes,
Thank you.
of course.
Yeah.
Especially because we're only getting closer and closer to mid-April, where you're going to need that. They brought Holloway up. I hate to keep bringing these kids up, but they brought Brogerberg up, and they relied on them heavily over that stretch and needed every little piece. So why wouldn't you get this kid more ice time before?
Yeah.
Yes.
You need to-
I know.
would.
Yeah.
No, I agree. The only thing I can say is if you're going to trade someone, you're going to move Jeff Skinner. But you just got to see how do you move Jeff Skinner?
How do you convince him?
Yeah, how do you convince him?
You know what's the messed up part about all of this is like even though Skinner's been a healthy scratch, he's been providing offense.
He's had 9 points in his last 16 games,
Yes.
and then he gets
Sad.
pulled off and tossed up with Draisaitl.
Yes.
Like what? Makeup? Is he not doing great? Is he like? That part did not make sense to me at all. And then they win in
100%.
Carolina, and it's like okay, can't even argue with whatever rationale went into that.
He had donuts across the board
Yeah.
for his stat line and 14 shifts, and I think it was somewhere around 10 minutes. I'm not gonna lie to you, like I watched Jeff Skinner that game, and I was like, wow, he seems to be moving okay. Like he's involved. He had a shot that went wide, but
Yep.
I was like, I don't mind. He's in it. He's in the thick of
I just don't get how they're using that piece right now.
it. It's bizarre.
No, but there are some teams that have no offense right now and they can't score a goal to save their lives. So you bring in a guy that, potentially supposed to be a 30-goal scorer.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe.
What do you say to him to waive that no movement clause, though?
Skinner?
Yeah.
You're not going to get an opportunity here. Sit in the press box here, go play somewhere else. That's what you say. And it's only half a year because it's only a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
So not even half a year. It's 20 games.
Text says, guaranteed Winnipeg, Buffalo, and San Jose are on Kane's approved list.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
I think he still owes some tips in Winnipeg.
Oh.
That was the big story in Winnipeg. And it wasn't that he walked out on bills. Okay, let's get this straight. Like, it was the big story.
Okay.
He keeps walking out on bills. No. What happened was he'd go to this restaurant. The owner was a friend of his. And then the owner said, don't worry, the bill's on me. But he wouldn't tip the waitress.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
No good.
Right.
No.
That's the thing. When someone buys you, like when we had that situation with Tony over at Boston Pizza.
Yeah.
For a couple
Thank you,
times.
Tony and
Thank you,
Curtis.
Tony. Yeah.
Always great. We
When
gotta get
he
you
says,
down
"Hey,
there.
I got your
Absolutely.
meal, whatever." Thank you. You don't just walk out. You gotta tip the waitress.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that was the big issue in Winnipeg was that he was getting these meals comped and then just walked out the door and then leaving the wait staff hanging. So
Yeah.
that was the story I heard. I know that was a There's some issues there.
Sometimes you have the first time you get a comp meal and you forget, you don't know the practice. And I did it once. I was like, oh my God, I should have tipped. I'm what an idiot. But if it happens multiple times.
Yeah, if you get your meal comp at a restaurant, you still got to tip the waitress. And you still got to tip the waitress what the meal was worth.
I made
You're
that
not
mistake
walking
one
out
time
of
and
that. You're not walking out.
never got a comp meal from them again.
Again, yeah.
I was like, oh, I screwed that one up.
Yeah.
I readily admit
Never
that.
screw over your wait staff.
Yeah. Okay, another text, and then we're going to look at this Rantanen thing because it's interesting. This one says, Oilers should face reality and stand pat. Go with what you've got and don't waste futures on a failed season. Hope for maybe everything works out and magically all players get better. Oilers are prime first-round exit candidates. Every other East team hopes they get Oilers in the first round. Or West team.
I don't know about that. A week ago, the Oilers were sitting third overall.
Yeah,
so I don't think, it's not a wasted season.
Not
You're
a
sitting
failed season
third
at this
overall
point.
behind Winnipeg and Washington, and then you had Edmonton and Vegas. So.
Especially when you bring up this playoff window. It is not going to get any bigger. You cannot afford to just write it off
I don't
as
know if it's a
failed.
wasted season. They had a bad week.
It's a wasted season.
They had a bad week, but prior to that, coming out of the Four Nations face-off, you looked at the standings. You had Winnipeg 1, Washington 2, Edmonton 3.
Yep.
Okay,
So that's not.
They had a bad month. It wasn't just they haven't won in regulation before that Carolina game
January
since
28th.
January 27th. Yeah.
27th, sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, a couple more texts that come in. Pittsburgh being where they're at and recency bias of the Four Nations. Could you see the Oilers going after Carlson? Played well with Ekholm, not necessarily the D-man the Oilers need, but would still be an upgrade and could flourish playing meaningful hockey. I mean,
That's a big contract.
it's a huge contract.
I can't see how they afford that.
Yeah.
You can't afford that on the back end. That's a big contract, and that's one that obviously the Penguins are going to regret. Carlson was asked about this yesterday, and he's like, "I want to stay here. I still think we can win here, but you're going to that's a big contract. Pittsburgh would love to move that. They would give
11
that
mil?
away.
Mhm.
Yeah,
11
they
mil.
would give that away, but there's no way you can fit that in. I think he's still got 4 years left on his deal.
Bronco Nick texting and says, Kane is tailor-made for the Bruins. Another one says, single most frustrating thing Bowman has done this year was blowing $2.76 million in available cap space on Klingberg and Kapanen. Is the jury still out on Klingberg? Like, he's only played, 10 games?
Yeah, the jury's still out. Like, he's got to get back up to speed. Like, he's obviously a talented guy. He's a smart guy with a puck. He makes good plays. But
Let's throw him up with Ekholm then. Let's put him on that top pairing and let's see if he at least doesn't cough the puck up once a game that winds up in the back of your net.
He has made some pretty, savvy moves with the puck in the D zone as well.
There you go.
It doesn't move that quick, but
That's the risk they're taking on him for sure. Has he lost a step? Because once that happens, you don't get it back.
no, that's a good point. Follows up with Ed, and if anyone thought Klingberg was ever going to fill a top 4 spot this year, they are an expletive. I'm not going to read that one on the show, on the air. But, I mean, is it fair to say he's an upgrade on Troy Stetcher?
Right.
yeah, I think he is. But I think the foot speed is an issue. And when things get faster in the playoffs, it's going to be an issue. It's going to be more exposed than it is now.
Hey, at least Stetcher will throw the gloves down and go toe to toe with
That's
somebody
true.
when nobody else is, right? I don't know.
Okay, one follow-up, and then we're going to talk about Rantanen. It's interesting. We just saw Rantanen against the Oilers. This one says, not a wasted season. This is a very good hockey team. They have flaws, so does everyone else. Got to get hot at the right time. Need some key guys to get going. Will come down to health and, of course, some luck along the way. I think that's a good perspective there. Okay. It is the EST Hangout. Tom Gazzola, Gerry Moddejonge, and Derek Van Diest with you. Portions of this hour are brought to you by The Hive Product Marketing, the official merch partner of EST, promotional products that bring the buzz. Check them out at thehiveproductmarketing.com. Whoops, that was a bad toss. I apologize. You can text us 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat. I haven't had a chance to look at the nasty chat yet. Okay, we're gonna talk about this Rantanen thing because Friedman and Bukowskis put out 32 thoughts, not a written version, the podcast version, and people are breaking it down. Belle Fraser, who covers the Utah Hockey Club, says that Friedman outlined on 32 thoughts that Utah's taking a quote unquote big picture approach at the deadline and beyond. They want to take a big swing at some point. If Rantanen hits the open market, that's a team I could see, okay, we'd like a shot at this. So Bell is grabbing the Utah portion of 32 Thoughts from Friedman. Guys, we just saw Mikko Rantanen, like I just said a few times. I kind of snicker every time I hear he might be on the move again.
Well, because he wants $14 million a year. And it's funny because, you trade for a guy like that. Carolina trades for a guy like that. And you think, okay, you trade for him knowing he's going to be walking. He's going to have to make between 13 and 14 million, maybe 12, 13, 14 million dollars a year next season. So you would think you would have been willing to say, okay, well, we're trading for a player that's going to cost us $12 million next season, $13 million next season. And you would think that there would have been some negotiations or something talking about it. Now they apparently they're far away from a contract. And Rantanen may not want to be in Carolina. He's a free agent. He can go in the highest bidder next year. Maybe why wouldn't you go to free agency? A guy like that, a guy that's going to get you 100 points every year. Or 80 to 100 points.
Yeah. Right?
He's a bona fide star player. He's a top 6 guy. You can really take your... Yeah. Why wouldn't you take your shot at unrestricted free agency next year?
What do you think, G? Do you think he walks?
I don't know. If I'm spending $14 million, it's probably going to be on the guy who's leading the league in goals right now instead of...
Mikko Rantanen?
Yeah. So and a guy who probably took a pay cut to get down to that $14 million. He's going to be making next year. So, yeah, that's crazy money. I don't even know if I'd have thrown my hat in the ring at all.
If Mikko Rantanen is not a Carolina Hurricane next season, how much of a stain on Eric Tulsky as a GM is that? Because he is supposed to be the wunderkind, right?
Well,
remember how many people were talking about him?
They're talking about this, smart guy, analytics guy, good with numbers guy. But remember the last Wonder Boy in Toronto? Like, he went
Cal Dubas?
Yeah. What's he doing in Pittsburgh? He messed it up in Pittsburgh now. Now he's going to have to they're going to have to blow up that team and start all over in Pittsburgh. Right. So, like, you're talking about this GM. That's going to be a mistake. It's going to be on him. He's going to make, oh my God, I traded really good assets. I got a player for half a year. Who knows how far Carolina goes? I saw with both of their last games, they have trouble scoring, even with Rantanen. And they traded a really good player, Martin Necas, like a really good player. Like, this guy had not reached his potential yet.
And Jack Drury, by the way.
And Jack Drury, yeah. And then
up and comer.
So that these two good young players go to Colorado. Necas is going to be a great player. I really like his game. I really like the way he plays. And Rantanen, you're like, okay, well, he was playing with one of the best players in the world in McKinnon, and I think that sometimes now you're on your own, and you're like. We've seen Draisaitl can do it on his own. When McDavid's not in the lineup, Draisaitl gets better. Rantanen on his own, we're seeing it now. Can he carry a team? I think, what has he got? 7 points in 11 games or 12 games or something like that. So in Carolina. So, yeah, so that'll be interesting. But you're right. A lot of teams are going to have cap money. Hey, that guy could be the face of our franchise. We'll see what happens in Carolina. But
Jerry, anything on Tulsky?
Not a thing. I got nothing. I'm actually feeling, I don't know how you've done it for the last 2 weeks. I'm actually feeling trade deadline fatigue.
Already?
And it's Monday morning.
Wait till Thursday night when it's at the game, we're in the press box and the Habs are here. All the crazy Montreal media are here.
And one player isn't dressed because he's already going to be, exactly. You're exactly right. And then the next day, I'm just going to kick my feet up and watch a bunch of dead air on the trade deadline shows. There's
always some movement. It's not going to be a lot, but the Oilers made their 2 deals and said, "Okay, we're done. We're out of here."
I agree with you. It is not going to be a lot this week.
But it's going to be, the Rantanen thing in Carolina is going to be very interesting. And I think that's if you trade for the guy, you almost have to have a contract in place.
That's the crazy part about all
and
this.
if they didn't, then that's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
That's a huge
That's
mistake.
a lot of pieces to move out to make room
and then
for.
You get a guy, and so we'll see what happens. They have, they're the only team that can offer him an 8-year deal, though. I think that's the one thing because
if you're on the team by the deadline, that's who you can sign an 8-year contract.
8-year contract with, right?
Got it.
So everyone else can only offer him a 6, I believe. So Does that matter? I don't know. If you're Mikko Rantanen and you're like, I want to see what offers come in.
I'm not gonna lie. If I was Mikko Rantanen and I could have the pick of the litter in the offseason, sorry, Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm taking a look around the league.
Yeah. I'd say, okay, I see your offer. Thank you, Carolina. I will consider it. I want to see what else is out there. Why wouldn't you? Like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, you've worked so hard to get into that position. You're going to go high. And because there's always some crazy GMs that say, let's throw them all this money. Let's throw them all this money in all this term. Let's take a shot.
So he gets dealt out of Colorado. They kind of have like their own internal cap. It's a bit, I don't know if it's a rigid organization, but maybe there's certainly some rigidity to it. It seems like you get sent to Carolina, which is a very rigid organization with an owner who's weird, and a GM who's the first go at it and is trying to prove everyone that he is more than capable. And then you have a great coach, don't get me wrong, but that demands a lot. You're 30 years old, just about to be 30 years old. I kind of want to go somewhere else.
I think so.
Yeah. I'm looking at Dallas.
Yeah.
Looking at LA. Looking at Nashville.
Because he's not, and at that point, is he thinking about the dollar sign on the bottom of the contract, or is he thinking about a ring on his finger, right? Like
He's got and he's got the ring. I think he's looking at.
Well, he's got the
dollar
ring.
sign.
If he was taking another ring, he would have stayed in Colorado. Like that's
Yeah, but that he didn't. He wanted to stay in Colorado, right?
But for $14 million.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Right?
No,
Yeah,
that's fair. No, that's a good point.
Colorado.
Yep.
And Colorado's internal cap is no one makes more than Nathan McKinnon. And Nathan McKinnon signed that contract a few years ago. I think, what is he making? 12 and a half?
Something like that.
McKinnon. Yeah. So, and the funny thing, McKinnon said, I don't care. Kale McCarr's going to make a lot more money. Like,
right.
They're going to have to open up the books for McCarr. And open up the books for.
Cat's
but I
going
think it's a good trade. I do like Martinikas. I do
on
like
that side of it. Yep.
I do like him a lot, and Jack Drury is going to help him out a lot. So I do like that deal.
Okay, KR Texan says Oilers are a top 10 team in the league with many players, including McDavid himself, underachieving. If the quote-unquote passengers get their asses in gear, they could be number one. KR, I don't disagree with that. This one says, can't believe we all thought Corey Perry was overpaid for this year's deal. Pretty great value. Wow. The Oilers are still the oldest team in the league, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's not by a lot, but it's that number is not in the 20s anymore.
No. But Perry's playing good. So.
Yeah, he is.
Another one, Andrew the accountant. We did talk about this. If you haven't heard it, yes, Henrik does have a full no movement clause. Good luck moving anyone off the roster if Kane is coming back before the playoffs. Might be a very lackluster, frustrating trade deadline. We'll see what happens. Like, talk is picking up. So it's interesting. Dean in Medhat says, just got a notification that the Panthers hope that Tkachuk is back for the playoffs. Do you see that being an LTIR move right away? Crazy what they could still add if that's the case, and back-to-back cups is very much a possibility.
Ooh. When's the last time that happened?
Pittsburgh, yeah, 15 or 16, 17.
I think so.
Yeah, with Matt Murray in net.
Nice, right?
I do. You know what? Yeah, why not hold out Tkachuk until the end of the year now? Like, let him get healthy, and then unleash him in the playoffs. Why would you do? And then load up. Yeah, I think the East is going to be interesting because I honestly think there's two teams out of the East. I think it's Florida, Washington. I don't see any other team in the East really challenging. I think there's a lot of, not pretenders, there's a lot of teams kind of similar in the East that can kind of all beat each other, but you're looking at, the two teams at the bottom, Detroit and Columbus. They're just happy to get in the playoffs. They've been out of the playoffs for so long, and then there's not much after that. Like Toronto's there, Tampa's there, but we all know what the Leafs do in the playoffs, right? So it's so now.
How dare you say that?
Until they prove you wrong.
Now they got to play Tampa again. They're like, oh, we got to play Tampa. They got to start whining about it. Oh, we always have to play Boston or Tampa. We can't beat either of those teams. That's the way the format is, man. Sorry.
Do they? Oh yeah, Tampa was back to back. Reed Wilkins.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's right, Tampa. But that was the COVID years.
Yeah.
Not to make the excuse, but
not an asterisk, but not the same.
Yeah, weird time, right?
It was a weird time.
Remember Jerry? You did bubble playoffs too, right?
I did not do bubble playoffs. No,
it was so strange up there. So strange.
Yeah.
It was surreal. I almost forget. You almost forget about the bubble season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so cold in that rink.
Oh man.
It was the only thing to do.
It was the middle of
And
August.
It
Yeah.
was the middle of August, and you're like, well, I'm going to go to 3 hockey games, which sounded awesome for a while. And then by the end, you're like, I think I'm going to go to 1.
Yeah. It became a long day.
Yeah.
Became a long day.
And I don't want to wear a winter coat.
And they had that big boardwalk built outside.
Yeah.
Nobody could hang out. What a weird time.
It was strange, but good.
But somebody had to win. Good for them.
Yeah, Tampa did it. Thank you, Reed, for reminding us. Text comes in and says, Habs are here Thursday, and Matheson is in the Oilers lineup with a smiling emoji. And another text says, if Rantanen goes to free agency, can he circle back and still do the 8-year deal with Carolina after July 1st?
I think so. I think they're the only team that can offer him 8 years.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not a CBA expert, but I would believe that is the case.
Yeah.
One more says, agree with the last text. The Perry signing got the most heat this offseason, and it seems to be the only move that's really worked. Funny that.
Yeah.
Funny that. Keep those texts coming in, 780-218-9999. You can get into the nasty chat as well. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we roll on here on the Hangout. Tom Gazzola, Gerry Moddejonge, and Derek Van Diest with you on this Monday. A lot of news is starting to come out as it is trade deadline week in the National Hockey League. The Oilers on the ice later today. What time are they on the ice?
11.
11, yeah.
11, okay. So right when we wrap up. And then we'll get some updates on the team. They begin a 3-game homestand starting tomorrow against the Anaheim Ducks. And we'll see the Montreal Canadiens on Thursday and then the Dallas Stars on Saturday. I don't know if you guys saw. Gerry, you're downtown all the time. Don't live too far from downtown. You and I live right downtown. Did you guys see that the make good on the province giving money to Calgary for the arena? Now we're starting to see the Oilers or Edmonton and Kate's group OEG are starting to develop Ice District Phase 2. We're going to see, I think it's like a 5,000-6,000 seat indoor outdoor venue where the fan park is.
Yeah.
And then the north side of that. I don't know if refurbishments to Commonwealth will be included or if that goes on the Thompsons, but it's about time. And to see Ice District Phase 2 start to take off. I mean, any thoughts on that DVD?
No, it'd be good. Like, you can't just give $300 million to one city and then ignore the rest of the province. Like, like that was obviously it was a payoff because they said that we're not going to give money to rinks to build the arena. Like, that was the one thing that they said when the Oilers were building the arena.
Yeah.
We're not giving money. We're not giving provincial money to a city so they can have their own arena. Oh, here you go, Calgary. Here's
$330 million.
Yeah, here you go. I think it's good for Calgary to get a new rink. I think it'll help. It'll help them. That'll help them a ton. It'll bring revenue into the city, and it'll help them attract more free agents. It'll be more, it'll help the rivalry instead. But they got donors up here too that are saying, hey, what about us?
Yeah.
Do you want us to not donate to your cause? So I think they couldn't have ignored it, right? So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be refurbished. The Commonwealth Stadium needs the work. I still think it's too big.
It is too big.
Right? Like,
they think so too. That's why they roped off the entire upper bowl.
Yeah.
But that lower bowl still holds 32,000, and that's still bigger than the 24,000 seats they're building out east in the newer arenas or stadiums out there. To be fair, Calgary needs new. They need new. Oh my God! You think the Saddle Dome's old? Have you ever? When was the last time you've been to McMahon Stadium?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
awful.
This thing is tin bleacher bench seating and still. I mean, yes, they've taken a nosedive here last year, but the Staps were still, they didn't always win cups, but they were tops of the league throughout the regular season for a decade under Huff. So. And they did it in the biggest dump in the entire league.
It is awful.
So I don't know. And there was at one point they were talking about doing a rink / because it's different down there, right? When the Flames own the football team too, they're doing the rink / stadium down on the Stampede grounds, and then that is like, oh my God, what a great idea! And then that all got washed away. So it's been a long time coming to finally get some some news out of Calgary.
Yeah,
And
no, so I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good for Calgary, and it's gonna be good for the province. You want Calgary to be a good team.
Absolutely,
Right? Sure.
absolutely.
You know, it helps when Calgary's a good team. It
Absolutely.
helps develop that rivalry.
Yeah, and the facilities that, I mean, not everybody who pays taxes is a sports fan. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it all. But the facilities don't hurt. That kind of thing brings money into cities, and everybody benefits instead of having it all fall by the wayside and whatever happens. But speaking of Commonwealth, Matt, I mean, thank God for the Thompsons. They're going to come in, and that injection of money is exactly what they need. Whether it works out to stadium upgrades or overhauls or not, it's going to be better. And it's certainly looking up and better than it was before. I think the only thing, and I think we might have talked about this before, the only thing they can do to, because it's too big, you're not going to blow it up. But
Right.
let's forget about the upper bowl. Let's leave the lower bowl. Can they, because the biggest problem in Commonwealth, besides the 50 whatever thousand seats, is that track around back when they built it
Yes.
for the Commonwealth Games. So that track separates the audience from the action. Can they dig it down into that
That's what I
track?
was thinking.
Dig the whole
dig down.
field level down and make it the lower bowl become the upper bowl in a sense. Forget about the up top. You can't do anything about that. And then just dig it down and have seating down there. And maybe that's the only answer.
I've always thought that maybe if they can dig down and then add a few more seats and
Yeah,
make
and
it a
then,
little
and then
more
have
intimate.
it close
Yeah.
and more, because it's big and cavernous right now.
Yeah.
And there's nothing they can do. But I mean, good on them for roping off the top. We saw that happen, and it played out in BC when they closed the upper bowl at BC Place. And you know what? And it took time, but the new owner comes in out there, and all of a sudden they opened it back up, and then it's a thing again.
Yeah.
And it just created some momentum. Because when you have way too many tickets to get rid of, well, I shouldn't say that, because they were getting rid of tickets, but that's changed now. So when you have
Yes.
way too many tickets to sell, it can't become a thing. Like when you can just walk up and it's like, I can just go whenever I want. It's different than say, oh man, I got Oilers tickets for this weekend, right? Like
Yep.
it's a thing. It's like a status
Yeah.
thing. So good on them for roping off the top and trying to gain some momentum again. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Thompson does with that barn. And the city's been a really good partner to that club over the years, and I'm sure they want to see it all succeed down there too. So, but it's just nice to be able to talk about this, even if we're talking about it in Calgary too, and here, it just shows things are pointing in the right direction.
So I'll stay on the Elks, and then we'll get to something about that infusion of cash from the province that has something to do with the Coliseum. But the job that Ed Hervey has done, bringing in all these free agents, bringing guys back, repatriating David Beard,
Yep.
Jake Seresna.
How this track record on this club has been absolutely terrible. All of a sudden, one off season, it's a destination. Obviously, that was the right move to make, bringing Ed back.
Yeah.
And he's got more of a plan than his predecessors have had. It seems like now, right? The question is, what were his initial thoughts on the roster and seeing and what does he need and how close is he getting it to where he wants? Not that he's had a lot of time, but man, things are looking up for sure. Like you ask them, they'll tell you they got 8 out of their top 10 free agents a couple of weeks ago on the list, and that's massive.
huge.
They basically stole Toronto's D-line.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And brought in the brother of the QB, who was getting solid looks down in Green Bay not too long ago. Came back and won with Winnipeg. So that just a boon, and it had to happen sooner or later, right? Like they could not just keep going along and just taking black eye after black eye and not being able to do anything about it. So yeah, did it all start with bringing Ed Hervey back?
Chris Morris, Ed Hervey, now Mark Killam. What do you think he's going to be like as a head coach first go around?
He's finally getting his opportunity, right? Okay, nobody in the CFL, nobody in any pro sports league is an assistant coach in the same place for 17 years without doing something right? He picked up a thing or two from Huff, from Dickinson. It's just a long line of guys he was learning after. So, and he wanted to be a head coach forever. go back to 2012, and this is where the story on what it looks like now in the Double E is interesting, because you go back to 2012, and the U of A football program was struggling, needed a new head guy, and ends up being Chris Morris.
Yep.
Like, hey, great, this guy's getting back into football. He knows football around here. What is less known is before that job was offered to Chris Morris, Mark Killam had applied, and they wanted him. They loved him. They're like, this is perfect. This kid used to play here, and he's come back now. He's got all the CFL experience. Yeah. This will be a perfect thing for the U of A. We need this. This program has been underachieving for so long. And Mark Killam, the story is, walked into Huffsnag's office and said, John, thank you so much for all the opportunity. This is amazing, but I really want to get into head coaching, and I'm going up to my alma mater, the U of A. And John's like, I don't know if you ever heard, but he's a little hard of hearing.
Yeah,
so when
he's got the hearing.
When he gets excited, he gets loud. He's like, you're not going anywhere. Slaps it on a piece of paper. It says $25,000 raise on it. And Mark's like, well, I guess I'm not going up to Edmonton. So, which is fun. So it goes to Chris Morris. Chris Morris gets a decade of experience learning how to administrate this program, gets it back up to at least respectability, right?
Yes.
And when that team is going and they're like, oh my God, the Golden Bears are going to make playoffs if they win. Like, the city gets behind that kind. Like, they love their Golden Bears. It's just football team has not given them a lot to cheer about them. So Morris comes up and gets things turned around, point in the right direction. Also, Beard, the Cordies, Mark Cordy was the first guy to have, like, I believe it was the Washington team. They were not called the Commanders back then.
Right.
They came up and held a pro day for him. Like,
damn,
this is a U of A Edmonton kid, U of A pro. Well, Spruce Grove. So, like, amazing. And you never heard about U of A players in the draft, let alone, getting looked at, all these big looks and stuff like that. So all of a sudden they're cranking out top prospects to the pros. And then, Morris gets tapped to come here, where, he now hires the GM, and they hire the head coach who would have got the job over him 13 years ago. It's just kind of a neat little way that all working out, and hopefully it's all pointing in the right direction for those Elks now.
Do you think Ed's a different guy than the first time around? Because I know with Post Media, you still do I saw you when they announced the Thompsons taking over. I know DVD, now that you're NHL.com, you're not at the stadium.
No, that's a fair question. And the way it was explained to me by Chris Morris himself is like, Ed and those guys are teammates. They've won a couple Grey Cups together and go all the way back. He's like, Ed tried to do it all by himself the first time around, right? Like, he'd been a head scout here for a while, and then all of a sudden got the GM job, and it's like, okay, sees this is exactly what I want. And the results speak for themselves,
Sure.
Like, 2 years later, they go from 4 wins in 2013 to hoisting the Grey Cup and doing the parade around Churchill Square. Yeah. And it's like, man, the results speak for themselves. But I think he's got a different perspective now. Went to BC. There's some kerfuffle over, whatever and it was a COVID thing too, right? Like, who was going to get paid, who was not. Ed ended up taking the fall for whatever. Somebody's got to be the fall guy, right? Then he goes over to Hamilton, where you're kind of GM by committee, the same way.
What is the situation in Hamilton with Orlando Steinhauer? Because
that's a good question too.
They gave him a title, but he was still involved, and I think it was a way to give him a raise
or a promotion without. I don't. But there's and so it's basically the way it was working when Ed was there is like this 3-headed hydra of GMs. So he didn't really have the autonomy and stuff like that. So then he gets this opportunity to come back home, work for his buddy who's the new president, new owner. It's a brand new day in Edmonton, and it needed to happen. So I think he's really happy to be back home, where it all kind of began for him. And so he's got this roster now, like, queued up to, take another run at this thing. Let's remember, I mean, this is the same, what he's taking over wasn't the big dumpster fire. Yes, they weren't getting the wins, but this also kind of got a little bit of momentum going, win 5 out of 6 games, have a chance to hit playoffs, and playoffs wasn't even on anybody's lips for the last 4 years before that. So he's kind of taking it over in a good spot and trying to make it better now. And the big question in my mind is what's going to happen at QB. I know they've announced Trey Ford is finally going to get his opportunity. You know, he's got you look at the contracts and he got what, $100,000 signing bonus and stuff like that for, so it's his job to lose at this point. Then they bring in Cody Fajardo from Montreal, who's only 2 years removed from his, Grey Cup MVP. So those guys could end up even battling it out in training camp. And that would be like, I don't remember, anything like that happening since Nichols and Riley did it back in 2014. So
good point.
Or 2013. So these are all good problems to have. And if the rest of the roster is shaping, you mentioned the D-line, like that's your tip of the spear. That's what Chris Jones won with in 2015.
Yep.
And Ed had hands in that roster too. So hopefully this is all going back to the future for this club that has been struggling mightily over the last few years.
He was very animated during that entire spiel, which was great. I enjoyed all of it.
Was excited.
You sat idly there.
Well, I'm a fan now.
I know, and that's what I was going to say. That was good.
I'm not a CFL insider. I'm a fan now. So
I know.
I go to games.
How
as
do
a fan.
You observe it? Because he's covered this team
I'm excited.
for over a
we want to
decade.
go. Like this will be our third year, I think. We're gonna go and have fun, and my nephew's excited.
That's the best.
He's 10 years old. He wants to go to the Elk game. I asked him the other day, "You want to keep going?" Yes, I'm excited. I got a jersey. We're going to wear the jersey. So
that's the best part of it, man. The kids, seeing the kids getting back into it, then that's.
They need to get younger in that stadium, and I think they're going to do that. They're going to do a good job of that. Like the entire league as a whole needs to, appeal to a younger audience. Get the kids in there. Like that's how I grew up on the CFL. That's why I love the league, right? Yeah. And you got to get those kids in there. They got to grow up on the CFL. They gotta love the league.
When you bring Emerson, because you split season seats with me.
Yeah.
I have 4. You buy 2 of them. You bring Emerson. When you take him to games, like what does he like? What's the appeal to him? Because you've mentioned to me, it's like Emerson loves going to games now.
Well, he loves the crowd. He loves the energy of the crowd.
Yeah,
he loves having the popcorn. He loves catching footballs.
Catching footballs is fun.
That is fun.
The fire truck whipping around, the touchdown truck.
If we go home, it doesn't matter what the team does. It would help if the team won. Yeah. I don't think he's ever seen the team win actually at home. But it happens. If we had caught a football, it's a good day. If he gets to go down on the field, run around for a little bit, throw the football a little bit, that's a good day. So he has fun as long as he enjoys it, has fun. But I think he does he enjoys the crowd. He enjoys going out there. He enjoys the energy. Enjoys what he's understanding the game a little more. When first he didn't understand the game, but now he knows the game and. He's trying to talk his mom into playing football. I don't know how.
Oh, we got to get him down.
Well, Jerry coaches his son's football now.
I've mentioned that.
We need a QB coach too. So I hope you're not busy this summer.
Well, I might be able to help out, but she's adamant he was not going to play football. It's not. I'd like him to play.
Kid's got speed to burn.
He's good. He's actually a really good pass.
Penciling him into the roster
he's really
already.
Good pass. He'd be.
You heard it here first.
We mentioned this tonight. He'd be actually a really good quarterback. He's the best passer on his team in hockey. He sees the ice better than anyone else. Best passer on his team when it comes to soccer.
Got a little of his uncle's blood flowing through those veins.
He's got
BYU.
He's got the vision. You can tell he's got, especially when he plays hockey. He gets the puck and he looks up and it's always on somebody's stick.
What you don't want, and I'll go tell his mom this myself. You don't want these kids funneled into one sport specific thing early on. Like, how do you know he's not going to be? What if he's 5 years away from having a 100-mile-an-hour fastball? Right? Like who knows?
You don't know.
Who knows? Like get him into some different stuff.
But nowadays kids they're in a bubble, right? So like
that's true.
They're like this.
Some kids,
Oh God, yeah.
Gee, your boy played football last year. You
told
the
first year
the hilarious story where you try to explain things and then you see it click. And
these are Adam kids. Emerson's 9.
He's 10.
10? Okay, perfect. Get him down. He's got 2 years left of Adam. They call it U11 now. So, get him down, get him into it right away. But, you get these young kids, and, man, you get them all out on the field, and you slap these giant helmets on them, and they got pads, and they're like, some of them are like teetering, barely holding themselves up, right? It's like, okay, now we're going to get in 2 lines, and getting them to form lines is step number one is the hardest thing.
I believe
Then
it.
when they do it, it's like, okay, we're going to do handoffs to the left. Then you have to spend the next part of practice explaining what is right and left, and then correcting when they get it wrong there too. So you're doing all this stuff, but I mean, they're having fun too. But you got to be tough on them because they don't listen. They get in this gear and they're like, all they want to do is like, okay, let's go. It's like, no, you gotta listen. So yeah, listening skills are the first half of the season, and then all of a sudden they'll be out there, and some kid will be out there. You like watch you like rub your eyes, do a double take. It's like, did they just do something? No, like something right. Like I've been saying, like do this the whole way, and all of a sudden it just clicks for one kid, and it's like all throughout the, it's like bam, 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 and then you're like, oh my God! Like the clouds open up, the heavens shine down, and angels start singing. It's like, yes,
hallelujah.
I get it. I get why people get addicted to like volunteering for kids sports because it's amazing when it's a lot of work. And it's not even about, I can't tell you what the record was for those kids last year, but man, it's just seeing them actually take these little steps towards, I don't want to say becoming better people because they're great little kids, even though all I do is yell until my voice is hoarse at them every day.
That's okay. Your assistant's ready to yell.
I need it.
I'm not much of a. Oh, I guess when I coached, I could yell.
Well, we lost our big QB guy to Pee Wee this year, so we need a new OC.
Gerry, your boy playing football, like, because you got a son and a daughter, like, do they like football in general? Do they like going to Elks games?
Because went to a couple. They went as a team. The Millwoods Grizzlies went as a team, as all clubs do.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're there with your teammates and fun, and that was kind of the introduction. And it's like, hey, can we go do that again? I'm like, let's go. Like, ask me to go do it. And he saw one play sticks out in his mind. Kevin Brown tried. This was a couple of years ago. Tried leaping over a tackler, ended up going straight up and getting grabbed and piled right straight down. That was the greatest thing he's ever seen. Like, obviously, he was okay after that, but he's like, God, like, you can do that in this, and it's not illegal. Like, it's like, so he kind of caught the bug right there. And my guy's the opposite of Emerson. He's just a little plug, right? Like his shoulders do go up past his helmet, right? So he's big on the defensive side of things, and it's just getting the motivation to have them actually put effort in through a whole 2-hour practice, because it's not like soccer, just like, okay, like go and it's real quick and it's over. Well, it's like 2.5 hours when the sun's up, stays up late, and it's like, how do we get this all? And it's only 6 aside, but they all have to be working as one, and it takes crazy time to get them into it. So
herding cats.
Thank you.
And it's exactly what that would be.
So much fun though.
It is the EST Hangout, brought to you by Sentinel Storage, which is our presenting sponsor, Canada's storage experts. More than 2 decades of helping Canadians through life's transitions. Canadian storage provider. Sentinel.ca. Tom Gazzola, Gerry Moddejonge from NHL.com and Post Media, and Derek Van Diest from NHL.com. Jay Milne texting in says, this is bigger than just Ed. It's the entire effect of Chris Morris, as well as the addition of Mark Killam. Is a great deal of respect around the the Canadian Football League.
And new ownership.
That's a good point. Ian texts in, says, if we lose the upper deck, we lose the option for large concerts coming to Edmonton. That's a good point. And that's something that the city is going to have to figure out. But I hope we don't lose large concerts, because I like that Edmonton is a destination that way.
Yeah, and to be fair, they aren't going to like demolish the upper bowl.
Right.
It's just going to stay roped off for Elks purposes. Because absolutely, big concerts in town, you need that.
You need to open that up. Bronco Nick texting, it says, why spend $300 million on a Commonwealth overhaul when you can make a new, better small venue at Northland? So there's the other side of the perspective. This one says, even better than catching footballs from the fire truck is watching the fire truck run over the opposing bench.
That was great.
You think that was I know it was last summer, but
that was amazing.
And I think Rashog, actually, he was working that game on the sidelines. It was the Labor Day rematch, and I think the line Shoggy used was Larry Thompson juked where he should have jived, and he ends up in the bench.
Hilarious. Okay, you can go down to the team store and buy that image on a shirt,
that.
And it said just keep on rolling or something like that. Yeah, but just playing it right up, man. Like, and that's great. you need those rivalries. Calgary, Edmonton, I don't care what league, what sport, and to have the new owner kind of make his debut, they basically hand him literally the keys to the franchise. He plugs them into the touchdown fire truck and just bombs straight for the Calgary bench. Guys are like, it wasn't dangerous, but guys are like uncomfortably moving out of the way. On
What's
Calgary's
this guy
side.
doing?
So funny.
I know it was a busy sideline because both cheer teams were there.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
yeah.
stuff going on the sideline.
Yeah, the cheerleaders travel. Like it's such it's such a cool thing, that CFL Battle of Alberta. And I feel like I don't get that. I know hockey was big, and back when they meet in the playoffs, it's very rare. But it just doesn't have that same sort of like, okay, like something's going to happen in Commonwealth Stadium today, and I'm going to see it. But yeah, hopefully hockey gets back there too.
I would love to see the Elks, like the Riders do, roll out a retro uniform for Labor Day.
Yeah,
Go back to the 70s, the
Nice.
old logo style and the old pants and the white cage.
But now you have one person making the decisions, right? Like you have one guy at the top instead of a board of, so you have. I think it's going to be more streamlined.
Yes,
now. I think it's
much more focused.
Much
It
more
feels.
focused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a good thing.
Dave in Section T texts in and says, I'm loving the positive vibe in the tailgate. We make a day of prep and pregame, sometimes postgame. Looking forward to the game being good now, too. And that's a good point. Like
Love
that
it.
tailgate has become a very good thing.
Football is a culture. You don't just, I know in hockey, people live hockey 24 hours a day here. So you can show up to the game and be thoroughly entertained and leave either ecstatic or disappointed. Football is kind of like, no, you don't just come in and sit down and leave. You like come in, the tailgating is such a culture, and they're starting to get more of that feel, more of the thing now. Fans are really connecting that way. And that's kind of what you want out of your sports teams.
Yeah.
It's an event. Shout out to Jerry Haraxi and the Spirit of Edmonton. They've done a great job with the tailgate. They moved it last year to the parking lot just north of Clark Field or Clark Stadium, whatever it's called now. It is great. They've got live music. The grills that are going. The Cordies have their
Love 'em.
site. Yeah,
Love 'em.
What other? I think Justin Sorensen is there, former Eskimo.
All these guys sticking around after that 2015 Cup win, right?
Yeah.
Like, bring me back there. I cannot believe that was 10 years ago now.
No.
This year, right? Like,
No, we were in Toronto when they won that with the Oilers, and we
Yeah,
watched
I
it at
remember
Wayne Gretzky's place.
Gretzky's, yeah, we were watching at Wayne Gretzky's.
Nice.
We stopped serving Jack Michaels.
oh no.
To be fair, he wasn't any more drunk than we were, but he gets really loud when he
Big booming
and
voice.
then we brought up Brian Sipe for the Cleveland Browns, and he got really excited.
I love how you remember the
I
conversation.
know, because I was the only one who knew who Brian Sipe was, because it was back in my, I knew
That's
I was a
funny.
big NFL guy, so I knew who Brian Sipe was, and he got really loud and excited. And like I said, he hadn't drank any more than we. We were all kind of at the same level of inebriation, and then we wanted to do a shot because the Eskimos had won. And they said, everyone get a shot except for that guy.
Yep.
And then us, the good wingmen we are, we just went, okay,
Fine. No
you're on
problem.
your own, Jack. And he's like, what did I do? Which he didn't do anything, really. He was just a little louder.
He was loud. And
He was louder.
Hey, man,
but like I said, he wasn't any more
inebriated.
than we were. So it was kind of funny that the
That's
bartender had singled him out.
Good for him. He's made a good career out of having a volume that turns up to 11.
It
Right?
does.
He
go up
does a
to
great
11.
job, and it's a great job. And
It was-
looking forward to him doing playoffs this
Yeah,
year. So.
absolutely.
It was at 11 that night. Even
It was at
Stoff
11.
was indulging. Like,
It was good. It was a
was
good
fun
place to
night.
go watch the
Yeah.
game, and everyone was excited about what it was a rare Sunday off of wherever we were. We were in
Yeah.
Toronto.
We're Toronto.
So all I need is a return of the double E
yeah.
to greatness, and then I get to see all these good stories happen.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. No,
All
we're
right,
we're
sign me up.
Jack was ripping the CFL, but I think Jack has found a
He
soft
watches
spot.
it. Like,
He's found a soft spot for the CFL. He's a typical American. Oh, your
Right.
CFL sucks, and then he watches.
Right.
He goes,
Wait a
Oh,
minute.
it's
Wait
not
a
so
minute.
bad. It's
That
kind of
final
entertaining.
3 minutes was actually
"No, it's
really
kind of
good.
entertaining stuff." And there was
Football can happen in the final 3
Yeah,
minutes
exactly.
of a game.
right? You don't
Who
have
knew?
to take a
that
knee.
was entertaining
Get one
stuff. That
first
was
down.
entertaining. So I think he's found a soft spot for the CFL.
Well, he'll text me like it'll be a Thursday night game and the Elks will be out of town or whatever, and I'm watching and it's the third quarter. He'd be like, "Boy, they really blew that 3rd and 2." I'm like, "What?"
Exactly. So but he's coming around. But that was a fun night. That was a fun night.
It was great.
Well, yeah, I remember that. I remember that night. See, I couldn't have been that drunk because I remember that night.
I
pretty
guess so.
vividly.
Yeah.
And I remember the conversation we were having with Jack about the Cleveland Browns and Brian Sipe.
We bounced around after that. Me, you, Chris Westcott, and someone else. And we had chicken wings at, I don't know where the hell we were, but we went to a few different places.
Nice.
We celebrated that victory.
We had a lot of fun.
Rung in the Grey Cup and
Pretty
stuff.
happy.
I've seen people, like Bob and I put up a picture, like, celebrating, and I've seen people that have their Twitter profile photos of me and Bob.
That's frightening.
There's multiple, and I was like, oh God. That was a fun time. All right, we've got about 10, 12 minutes left here on the Hangout. It's been a fun one. Tom Gazzola, Gerry Moddejonge from postmedianhl.com and Derek Van Diest from NHL.com. You can text us 780-218-9999. Get to the nasty chat if you're wondering where the hell's Iwanek. He is on holidays, so it's my show for the next 2 weeks. We're going to have a lot of fun. Probably
Gloves are off.
Gloves are off, yeah. We're going to do things my way.
In the middle of a season?
That boy needed a break. He's been going hard for a year and a half. Did a great job with the fun spiel. He's going to get ready when he comes back. We're going to get the golf tournament going again.
Good job.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a date. I'm not revealing it.
Oh, boy.
It will be at the ranch. Our good friend Murray McCourt, VIP golf show, coming back for season 7. It was with us at 1260. It started. It was actually the first show that aired here on EST because we had announced EST. It was like the soft launch. So on Sundays we ran a VIP golf show with Murray and Curtis Stock, and it's going to be back for its third year here. Yeah, so it's going to be great. All right, final thoughts. Coliseum. That's what I want to get to, because part of that provincial money, yes, it's going to help. Phase 2 of Ice District, that indoor-outdoor live entertainment venue, which I think is a cool concept if they do it right. Don't value engineer that thing. And the Coliseum will finally be torn down. I think the price is ballooned to somewhere high 20s when it comes to in millions to tear it down. Asbestos remediation.
Ooh,
they have to. You can't just blow it up. You have to pick it apart basically.
Yeah, I can't blow it up because there's asbestos in the air.
Yeah.
End of an era, obviously. A very serviceable arena. Wayne Gretzky's favorite rink to play in. He's told me that personally. But when you hear it's finally going to see its final days in the next year or two, I think it is, what memories conjure up?
Kind of sad, yeah.
Well, we grew up on that, going to that rink, right?
Yeah.
We grew up going to that arena, and we grew up watching Gretzky and the gang in that arena. And it's funny, I did a story on Kenny Morrow for the longtime Islanders defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote a book. Came out a couple of weeks ago. We had a great chat. I said, Kenny, can I get 15 minutes of your time? He's like, no problem. We chatted for an hour and a half. It was just a wonderful conversation with a wonderful man. And we talked about those days, those series against the Oilers. They played the Oilers 3 times. They beat them in the second round of playoffs on their way to one of their cups. And then they beat them obviously to win the cup, to win their 4th cup. Then they lost the 5th time around. And he remembers that arena well. He remembers, those series well, and it was interesting to talk to him, to kind of reminisce. And I think he enjoyed the conversation because he was talking to someone that, hey, I remember you. I remember what you did. I read the book. So it was an interesting story. But yeah, that's what I remember. Is I remember going to those games and seeing those games and being there. And it's funny. It is because the era now. What are we in? 10 years in the new rink now?
Almost.
Wild.
It'll be 10 years
right.
next
So
year.
I think if it had been blown up 2 years after, I think it would have been a bit more. Like you see some of those in the States when they build the new arena and right next to the old one, and then they blow up the old one, the new one stand.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a little different, but there's got to be some, there are good memories there for a lot of people, and they spend a lot of time there, especially the season. A lot of long-time season ticket holders that would make that drive out there or take that LRT out there. And
man, Rogers got it beat hands down in every area but one.
What?
That press box, man. You were up
on
the catwalk and you're just right over top of everything. It was amazing. You can't do that in Rogers. It's just way too big. But
that press box was awesome. It was scary at times because I do remember in 2006 that thing started to shake as violently as I've ever seen it shake.
It literally hung from the ceilings.
And then it was so loud, and the thing started rocking like this, and I'm like, "My God, we're all gonna go down. We're all going down." And I was like, usually you could write in that noise, like you kind of when you're a writer, you kind of. But that was I remember, I think it was Game 6, 2016 Cup final. It was so loud in there. It's like I can't even write. And then the press box is moving like this, and so you're like, oh my god, this thing's coming down. But that was my last really good memory of that place, is that Game 6 in 2006. And I was like, this thing is coming down. It's like when they had, remember the first year of the playoffs, and they had the dance party above the media room.
Yeah, and
like a press conference room, and the windows were creaking.
Yes,
they're going creak, creak, creak. There's a dance party above us, and we're all like, okay, so I'm gonna stand over here just in case this whole thing comes. And then they're designed.
It's
to do
engineered that way. Yeah, you're like,
sure? Because they haven't had a dance party since.
No, they have not.
So I don't think, right? There's been no dance party since that started creaking the windows.
Yeah.
So it's engineered. Don't worry, you're all safe. Yeah, you're all safe until everyone comes caving in. So, but that was I had a lot of good memories there. Obviously, you hated. The thing is that when you live downtown, you hated the 20-minute drive there. Then you had to drive home. Then you had to drive back
Crappy
there.
parking
then you had
lot.
to drive home. We were in a bad parking lot.
Yeah.
We had to. Yeah. Actually, mind you, I got some decent parking. There's two different media parkings.
Yeah.
There's the A media parking right beside the rink.
Yeah.
The Gretzky lot.
And then the really bad media parking on the other
Lot
side
H.
of the LRT.
Oh, that was sketchy.
And I was lucky because I was a beat writer, so I got, got
lucky.
the good.
I started
parking
over
spot.
there, and then I ended up.
And you ended up in the good spot. So so it was good. But
Until you say the wrong thing, then you're back
over
well, that's
across
the problem
the
is that
street.
you're driving minus 40. You get there, you play the game. 5 hours later, your car's a brick, and you're like, oh my god,
It's kind of interesting, and you heard it when it was about to open up the new arena. You heard, the parking's gonna be terrible. Where is it to park? And then the city put out a map with like all the parking stalls or parking garages available, and then there's the huge one right underneath the plaza. And you don't really, outside of the cost, but you had to pay like $16 by the end of the Coliseum's run, and you're parking in Northlands, and you're like, well, at least it's right there. And it's like, no, that's still like a 10-minute walk unless you're right by the bridge to go across 118th Ave.
And I always think, like, people are like, oh, where are you going to park downtown? It's like, people come to work downtown every day.
Yeah.
And they have parkades in every building.
Yeah.
Like those,
and they're heated,
all
they're
those
underground.
heated underground.
And there's the pedway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's the people that made that argument, there was one counselor that said, oh, why don't we build the arena, out by the Henday? I was like, well, go to Ottawa, see how well that works.
Yeah.
What a stupid idea that is. Like, just, I wish some of these guys would actually do some research before they start. Downtown arenas is where to be.
Yeah.
They got it right. And I give the Oilers props because they put smart people in this project that went to different arenas, and they picked out the best things from the different rinks, and they incorporated it into this arena, and that's how you do it.
Now people come here with their new rinks to see how they did it here, to plan the new ones.
Yeah.
I remember I got a chance to talk about the catwalk. Did you know there was 2 more above?
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
And I went to the very tippy top. We did a story on the goal horn, and at the old rink, the actual tanks that they used to blow the horn were at the very top.
Oh man.
So I'm like, I got invited. They're like, we're doing this story for Oilers TV. Tom, do you want to come up here and see this where the horns are? And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yes, I do.
And when I got past from the main catwalk to the second one, I was like because I hate heights, and I'm like, oh my god. And it's not. Remember, it was like concrete on the catwalk. Well, this is like floorboard 2x4s from 1974 that were painted black, and I was like, oh my god. And you can see through them. And then they're like, okay, we got to go to even higher. And I was like, man. I'm freaking out. And then you got to the very middle of the roof and where it's all held together, and I looked down and I'm like, this is so freaky. And it was like dusty, and like all the dust from the CFR would float out there.
Yeah.
There's like balloons that got let go that have been sitting in the rafters for like 25 years. I'm like, this is messed up. And and I was just like holding the rails going down as well because I was freaked out. Man, spent so many hours in that building. I've watched you puke there.
Yeah, I got sick there once.
St. Patty's Day.
No, I got the flu. And
Sure.
I went to work. Yeah, that's what it was. So, you ever gone to cross the catwalk in Calgary?
Oh yeah, that's
across
the worst.
scoreboard.
Have you done that one?
That
No,
is freaky.
I did not.
You look right down on the scoreboard. I'm like, oh, that's freaky.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do that if you ever go to Calgary. and you're in the press box, go walk right across. Like they
Over
have two
top of
press
the scoreboard.
boxes right through the press, right through the scoreboard.
That's all wooden beams up in this.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy.
It
The
is
thing about the old
rinky-dink,
building
yeah.
after the CFR is that you'd have a layer of, like you'd go to the press
Ooh,
box. They
yeah.
wouldn't even clean the press box.
No.
And you have a layer of dirt like a month later
And you just
on
like,
your, you have to clean it yourself.
Man, there were so many interesting nooks and crannies to that building, like hidden storage areas. I learned that they added storage after it was built initially, like the dry dock and stuff like that. I don't miss it at all, though. Some people have said they miss the old
No,
building.
I
but it's
don't miss,
like,
I don't miss it at all. I like walking to the arena now.
This new one's pretty good.
Yeah.
This text says, we have the old goal horn in our office, way smaller than you think. The horn itself, like I can imagine, is not that big, but like they had these tanks, air tanks that they would blow. The tanks that were up there, if I recall correctly, were for the playoffs, and they were left over from 06 to make the sound even louder because it was
Amazing.
so loud
Yeah.
in the building in 06. So that's a detail I kind of forgot about, but yeah. Remember the visitor room was moved from right by
Oh,
the
yeah.
Oilers room to the other side, and it was so like makeshift.
Yeah.
And I think that was the Rushes.
The Rush had that as their home locker.
Yeah, exactly. It was a very unique building.
Did the
It was-
trick, man.
Yeah, it
I
was
remember
very-
seeing elephants in the bowels of Wrexham. Circus was in town. The place is bigger than you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fine. My first CFR that I covered there when I was a college student. That's when I saw how big bulls actually are.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're gonna ride that thing? Look at the size of that
Oh
thing.
God.
Are you kidding me? Like they had him in the pen there.
No, they're gonna tick it right off first, and then they're gonna ride it.
Yeah, the bull would give you the evil eye. And you're like,
And well, the pens that they would put them in, they're like, that thing's, it's like clanking. You're like, I don't think that thing can hold the
yeah, no,
bull.
if the bull got mad, he would like, and he'd give you the
Yeah.
evil eye, like, don't get too close, buddy, because I will rip your head off.
Oh my
And they like, they're like, my God, these things are monsters.
Tanks.
Monsters.
It would just reek
Yeah.
in there. So
yeah.
bad.
And then it would smell for 3 months.
Fun
after.
times, good memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well-
Trying to clean out the CFR, which is, coming back to the new rink. So
They did a good job cleaning it. Could you smell it? I could smell a little bit in the dock area. And then, but by the time you got to where the locker rooms are, couldn't smell a thing.
Nice.
yeah, so we'll
done
see
a
what
good
happens with that. But our press box now is so far away, we don't have to worry about it. Like it's like we're at the top of the top of the
But
top.
we get pizza.
Hey, as long as that hockey team doesn't come home now and stink it up even worse.
What do you think
Turn
happens
things
tomorrow? We got
around.
2 minutes.
They'll win tomorrow. They'll win
It's
tomorrow.
Anaheim.
They'll have a really good game. They'll play really well. I think they'll play really well all
It'll
3 games, and then
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in Dallas against Dallas. But
it'll
I think
help getting in front of the hometown.
winning in Carolina is not easy to do. Tough place to win.
Yeah.
Going in there winning Carolina, I think that did wonders for them. And
Get
but
their
like,
home crowd back.
you need to make a move. You got 4 days to make a move
right.
here.
It's going to be exciting. Looking forward to getting to the new rink with you guys tomorrow night. Big G, Gerry Moddejonge, thanks for coming in
Of
today,
course.
pal.
Anytime.
postmedianhl.com. Check out his work. Always great stuff. And then, of course, this guy, Derek
Yeah.
Van Diest. You know him. You love him. NHL.com as well. That's going to do it for the EST Hangout. Coming up next, it's the Lock Shop with Dusty and Huss. I'll be back with the Oil Stream at noon with Dusty. And, of course, EST Afternoons, Hernan and Joaquin. And then the Reed Wilkins Show to close out another full day here at EST from 3 to 6. For DVD, for Gerry, I'm Tom saying thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. The Lock Shop coming up next. It's been another edition of the Hangout. We'll see you later. There you go. Right in front of the camera.
First time guest, long time listener, fan of the original draft provision.
Welcome to the EST Hangout.